Hello everyone, PJ Sessions here. Today we're talking Lo-Fi House. I'm bringing you guys a breakdown of my new song called D.N.A. It is available everywhere and you can check it out on the link in the description. Now, let's just jump into the session. So here's the session of my new song called D.N.A. So just a little breakdown. We have our drums in red. I have a little speech here, some sample here. I have some vibraphone here that I'm calling bells. Here has all my keys on this folder and a little filtering. Now my bass folder and sound effects and transitions. So I was aiming this song to more like a Peggy Gou vibe, so we need to talk about bass. What I'm calling here slap bass synth is just a patch from Reactor here on the 2 oscillator. It's just a preset. I did nothing to it. You can even copy this, or if you have this synth on Reactor, just open this preset, you're gonna have the same sound. One thing that's most important, especially if you're going to mimic like a lo-fi house, and especially going all the way into Peggy Gou's style, you need a bass that kind of what like a bassist would play, and especially if you're going like slap bass, you need to think about it. I was just like playing on the keyboard here, just messing around, and came up with this pattern. Let's take a listen. And this repeats over and over. Now, one thing that's interesting that I did on this song, it's usually like electronic music, it's played on 4. So we're always on like on 4/4 time signature. We're always playing like every 4 bars we do something. But for no reason, just because it sounded good for me in my ears, I'm doing this in 5 bars. Even though I'm in 4/4. So every 5 bars I'm introducing like a new idea, and I'm passing this on Vital, my own preset on my techno bass preset as a sub bass. So here's just a saw wave, -24, square wave -24, and a sine wave on 0 here. I got a little bit wide this one, so because this is not supposed to be a sub bass, I'm just using here as a sub bass, but in mastering I'm just monoing everything below like 100 hertz, like 80 hertz. So how this patch works is this plug envelope shape here, it has like a little bit of release, just a tiny bit of sustain. It's controlling distortion, like both distortions here, which is like the FM from this, and it's also the cutoff here. And here on the oscillator 3, which is on the sine wave, I'm just pulling back the volume, because when I'm using this as a bass, I don't want to like this sine wave sound. I'm also putting a little bit of distortion just to give a little bit of volume, and of course I'm cutting everything here on a high. So that's it for the bass. Again, just like a slap bass pattern, just thinking about how a bassist would play, and also having a little sub just to get a little bit more body to it. Another thing, lo-fi house, it's really important, is your drums, especially simple selection. I'm using this kick here. I got it for free on like a pack in the internet, like it's nothing fancy. It is a strong kick. That's why I'm removing the tail here. And then you say like, hey, why don't you use like a plugin to do that, or just another kick which is more controlled. The thing about lo-fi house is that you need to have the lo-fi aesthetic, which is kind of low fidelity. That's what they say. So it needs to sound a little bit crunchy, a little bit awful, just on purpose, you know? When you make things not perfect, but on purpose. And that's what I'm doing here. I tend to kind of oversaturate my kicks on kind of every song. Here's like in 30%, but, and I'm diving back a little, but it's super oversaturated. And here on the EQ, I'm cutting this just to get a little bit space for my subs. I'm pushing up the fundamental here and removing like the mids here, so I have more space for my keys, for melodies, and etc. To give like a little bit of more groove, I found this on Battery. It's just a bongo shot. As a pattern, I'm doing this. Again, I was just messing around on the keyboard and found this pattern. Every time you can, just play your pattern and then you quantize whatever you want. It sounds more natural. It's kind of faster to do it playing if you know what you want, and then you can just come here and draw stuff, just having like the pattern that you're listening in your head and tapping the rhythm, you know. Here's the pattern. And then for processing, I just added a delay here. A little bit of the harsh to give it a little more air, cutting the unnecessary lows. And we have this. And this, it's a pattern that it's going alongside this loop here. It's a loop I got from Cubase. And here I'm just applying another delay. I'm removing like a frequency that just a little hiss that he had. I'm pulling down the highs here because I want this to be more on the mids, and removing the unnecessary lows and cutting, because this loop had like a little low kick and I needed just remove that. And I'm panning like here on 48, and the bongo I'm panning like in the same 48 but on the other side, so they work together here, both together. Something simple. One rhythm just complements the other one. For hi-hat, it just has like another free sample I got it from the internet. A really washy hi-hat, because I'm not using here like an open one, like a 909 open one. On Peggy's music, you see a lot of variety of samples, so she doesn't just use like a 909 as every house music does. As this is still a house track, even though it's kind of like a lo-fi house, we're gonna have a clap. I'm using here a big clap. You can hear like the room in this. Again, this is just another sample that I had and I found it on the internet. Now, for processing, I'm just sending a little bit to the reverb, and you know, remove the lows, and I'm just pulling a hair on the highs here, just because I'm gonna have like a lead and I don't want this to just cover up the frequencies in there. And also I have what I call a clap fill, which is another clap, even though they have They actually have a similar wave shape. If you think, oh, see, they kind of have like a similar wave shape, but this one sounds like higher pitched. And I'm using this just to play in between the beat here, so we have kind of like a little turnover, a little fill. It comes just like as a little surprise in the middle of the loop, so you still get the listener to be interested, and it's not just, the same element over and over. This also helps the bass, like I have here on the bass, the phrase here. Always go all the way down to me playing F again. So we're falling into that. And this little fill here helps this like falling motion so we can go back to the first chord again. And now some extra stuff, which is like crash samples for the build up and a little bit of a ride sample here on that I got from Battery from the 707, which is just to play something more upbeat because I'm not using an open hi-hat here and something different on the last drop. Let's go to keys. This filter keys here, you can just ignore it. It just was just an idea that I've tried, like filtering out stuff, but I didn't like it, so I'm not using this. So let's go first. Like this pad, it's from an Arturia patch. I don't remember what I was using because I just deleted the channel. Could just to save CPU, and I just printed the whole thing here. See? This is just like a saw wave pad with like a phaser on it. There's nothing that fancy. Now, those chord blocks here, they come from Retrolog. It's a preset called Incense Cone, and it just messed up with the velocity here. Because here we have like two square waves, one in 24, both in 24 actually, but in different octaves. And the cutoff, it's just all the way rolled down. Why? Because I'm using velocity here to open up the cutoff. And for effects, I'm just using a little bit, just a tiny bit of delay here. So if we see here, you can see that this is a different velocity than this. So it goes open up and it gets like this filter effect. See, it goes opening up the sound and becoming like more stronger. Processing, just EQ, remove the lows, boost some little frequency so it cuts through the mix. Now we have those chimes here. Those are the things that actually like increment and give like a new texture to the song. This is supposed to be just like a sound effect here. This is not supposed to be a lead or something like that. This is a preset on Retrolog here, Viralism. It's a triangle wave and two saw waves on different, like on the same octave here. And then they have different phases and both like on some detuning here to get a little bit wider. It is a plug shaped sound. And here's the most important stuff. We have a little bit of resonator as a filter here, just like above a little bit of the 50%. A little bit of delay and reverb to get a really spacey. This enters on my first break, because I have a tendency on my own songs that I got from listening Peggy Gou, DJ Boring, and especially DJ Seinfeld, which I like to make this atmosphere to feel like you're just in space. So let's listen how this thing enters. See, you just get a break, like we remove all the elements. I just have the bongo shots, and then this comes in just to fill in the blanks. Now the second chime here, it's something just to give more body to this. So it is something to add a new element to the song so it doesn't stay repetitive. And it's something that will bring like more body to this little sound effect here. It's just something like to be there and behind everything. And this is also from a reactor. This is photon, and on the preset send I did nothing. If you hold it, you're gonna have like this starry sound. I'm just playing really tiny notes here, and I'm not doing the fall. Like this little phrase here, I'm not doing it. I'm just having this cycled motion here on triplets here. Both together, they complement each other like pretty well. See, it gives a little bit more body, and then you can use this as a lead, but I'm using just as a ethereal thing, like just a repetitive pattern. I'm just gonna talk a little bit of the lead here, which is just a vibraphone from Vienna. Here, like VSL. Just a vibraphone here patch, nothing crazy. I'm just calling this lead because I actually don't have a little, like a big lead on this song, because it's not, I was hearing it when I was composing it, and it didn't had the need to do that. And again, I was aiming for a Peggy Gou vibe, and she puts a lot of bells on her songs, and I just wanted something like that. And for processing, delay here, I'm using mono delay here, because I don't want like this to be bouncing off. I just want like a little tail. Big reverb from Negative Instrument. This one is free, by the way, guys. Just go and get it. This is a really powerful reverb, by the way. EQ here, remove the lows. I remove a little, like 2 frequencies that were clashing with the other elements here, and it just boosted the high just to give it a little bit more air. And I'm doing automation here on the filter, because I'm using this, I'm introducing this as I'm dropping. And for the pattern, I'm just playing like a little melody here, which has like an A and B section. See, it has like a question and an answer, and I'm repeating the motifs here. Actually, this is the whole reason I did this song, because I really wanted to use that to sample this. Again, it's just simple stuff. Maximizer, so I can get a little bit of boost. Mono delay, a little bit of tail, and Native Instruments big reverb. Why I'm using those into the voice here, it's not only because I need a tail, it's just because I like to have voice in a way that, not as a singer, but when you're doing a speech, I want to simulate that we are into a room. imagine that I'm recording you like a video of you, and you're doing like a great speech on a room. And I'm using sampling that to use on my song. We need that like the roomness sound. That's what I want to simulate, because like the recording didn't have that. For EQ here, I'm just brick walling all the lows. I don't want low information here on the voice, because this sample is already treated. I didn't record this on the studio, so I don't need the lows. I'm boosting a little bit of the mids because I want like this radio sound. Remove a little bit here on the mid highs, just to have like more space for the other stuff. And I'm cutting the highs here just so I can get like more of the radio effect. And everything together, like everything on that, came to this.
The human animal was a slave to the gene, the inner tyrant. Lust, greed, rage, self-obsession was etched into our D.N.A.
And how I'm using this sample. First, I'm using here on the break, which goes with like the ethereal vibe that I'm going into it. Here, like the first phrases. Let's listen to that on the break.
The human animal was a slave to the gene, the inner tyrant. Lust, greed, rage, self-obsession was etched into our D.N.A.
And as you can see, I've removed most of the elements here. I'm just using like the keys to tell the story here. And then I'm gonna add stuff slowly. I'm slowly adding stuff so we can just go back, because this is not supposed to be like this big break with like a big build up. It's just to be like something kind of like scare the listener, because he's gonna be like, wait, what is happening? Like, it's just something like, hey, this is the middle of the song, just vibe with me here. We're gonna get like to the main drop, and it would be this big thing. So I'm just like adding the hi-hats here, and then I come with the bass phrase, and I go adding like, adding elements until we drop a little bit, like, and then we come like this is kind of like a weak drop. As I told you, like, this is not supposed to be big. It's just to be like, just to come back to what we had. Really great thing that I've learned by listening to live sets is sometimes producers, DJs, they just remove the kick to have like a little fill. It's not a drop, but it's just like a little fill. So I'm just removing the kick here in this loop, so we just have this as drums, and then we have like the phrases coming down to the first chord, and then we're gonna introduce the right symbol here, and this creates like a little fill, a little kind of like step up, like a little step, so we can drop. Like, listen to this. And now in here, I go, after that drop here, I'm just like removing everything. I just have the loop, like the drum loop in here, and this chords. And then I go like introducing every little thing on its own time, and then I just do like a build up on the claps here, and then we have the big drop. Introduce it in the middle of the drop, or you introduce it like in another space of the song. And the way that you're gonna introduce is not just like punching in like the idea on your listener's face. Here I'm just like filtering out this melody so it stays behind everything's happening, and I'm just like introducing it So when we get to the drop, it's gonna be way familiar because you were hearing that coming up. And then we continue to the end of the song. For the last drop here, what I'm doing also, I'm just using pieces of the speech as new elements. Didn't want to add more drum sounds. I didn't want to add like more keys or even something on the bass, because this would be just convoluted. It would be just like fighting everywhere. It wouldn't sound good. So I'm using this pitch here kind of as like a new element that comes in, and then the listener gonna remember, oh hey, I've listened to that voice in the beginning of the song, like this is curious, this is nice.
The human animal was a slave to the gene. We can redraft the human blueprint.
And just because I like to be dramatic, because I came from scoring to picture in games, so I like the drama. I'm just using this pitch here just to finish out the song, and this like I'm gonna have the tail from the speech here, just kind of really dramatic, just to actually put like a period on the song and say, hey, this is over. Thank you for listening. Let's go to the other songs.
Now, in theory, we can redraft the human blueprint. Serving the common interest can become as natural as breathing. The tyrant will simply go extinct.
Now, before I go to mastering, one thing that I like to do is I route everything to a mix bus, and then I just sprint like this mix. And if you look really close here, if you give like a zoom in here, you're gonna see here like me asking you to just subscribe and just press the like button here. It helps a lot. Thank you guys. I'm just running everything here through this compressor here. I just use like a preset like pumping house here. It's just like this vintage compressor here is just comes with Cubase. It's a stock Cubase plugin. I just use this pumping house master like preset here just to start out, and then just adjusting things here just to my liking here. Okay, now we have the mastering session. And again, if you guys are liking the video, subscribe, hit the bell button, and please give a like, because this helps the channel a lot, and I'm gonna be bringing every week like more content to you guys. And if you look all around on your folder, you will see that you need to check this song out. The link is in the description. Just click it. You can have on all streaming platforms here. Well, first things first, what I do is here, I'm just gonna cut all that silence to the wave here and do the fade out here, because this is kind of like silent, but it has sound in here. It's just like the reverb tail. So I just cut it out like that big silence, like that extra silence, and just fade it out a little bit, the reverb here. Also, I did an instrumental version of this for sync licensing purposes. First things you need to have. You're gonna add as a post fader on your stereo out. I'm just using like the channel here because I have two versions of the same song. You're gonna have as a post fader on your channel or on your stereo out a plugin. I'm using here Supervision that comes with Cubase. It's a stock plugin, but you have great free references plugins here, so you can measure loudness. You can measure the loudness here. You can match like here with your correlation. You can see like your spectrum curves. You need something to see all those things. EQ, I'm just cutting like the unnecessary 20 hertz that, because I don't have a sub here on my studio, so I like to cut this, because sometimes the subs is gonna be really loud and mushy on the big systems. So as I don't have like a really good reference here, I prefer to cut it out and be more thin, just to get the danger to just get this music to a club and just be just that wall of bass sound. And here, just tiny bit of bass in here because I'm cutting that, so I'm just boosting a little bit here and boosting a little bit here on the mids and boosting a little bit of the high. It's just like when mastering, you don't do like big notches, you just do a little bit of boosting or cutting. It doesn't need to be like that, those big notches that you do when sound designing or even when you need to EQ and remove some frequencies that are harsh. Just using a little bit of saturation here on 40% just to get a little bit of crunchy and tape sound. This is Magneto. Everyone that uses Cubase knows this plugin. It's a stock saturator plugin, like it's a tape saturator. Here I'm using multiband compressor just because I don't have a compressor that I can ignore the low frequency, and as my kick is oversaturated, I'm gonna get on my compressor like a pumping effect, which is gonna mess with the whole master. It's gonna sound like I'm sidechaining the master, and I don't want that. So I'm compressing here almost like it's the same thing, just doing like different dBs here for threshold on each band, just because I want this to be a glue compressor, but as I don't want that pumping effect, I'm just gonna have like my lows on a different threshold than the rest. And when you're using this, as you can see, every band here just have like just a little bit of compression. As we're compressing on the master, I don't want to squash things over. I just want this to get like the transits so they can be glued together, and they also can be they like some frequencies they can be perceived more loud than the others. So they're gonna be balanced out. Then we go to I use solid EQ, which I'm just like boosting some lows and some low mids, removing a little bit of the high mids and removing a lot on the highs there. Now an imager here, so I'm just monoing everything below 112, and I'm giving like a lot of width on my low mids here, like from 112 to 150k, like 1500s. On this green band here, it's kind of like my mid highs. It's from between 1500s to 10k. I'm just boosting a little bit here, like on 120%, and my super highs I'm just leaving as is. And now it comes the loudness part, which I'm running a soft clipper and also my maximizer. The soft clipper here, I'm just leaving as is. I didn't touch it. It's just like that because I just like the sound as this, and this just get a little bit of clipping onto my sound here, and just to get a little bit of loudness. Now the maximizer here, this is where the magic happens. This is kind of like an exciter. So this works just as the Oxford inflator. This is just to boost up the perceived loudness of your track, and this will work alongside your limiter. As I'm boosting more than 14 LUFS here, I'm just doing what Spotify recommends, that your true peak needs to be like -1. So I'm just putting -1.5 so I can get like a little bit of headroom. I also, if I wanted to, I can just boost in the gain for some more levels, but I got to a point that for me it was good, just working with like 20% of the exciter here and just having like this as a soft clipper. And then you're just gonna, after all this, you're gonna be checking those like this thing here. You're gonna be checking your LUFS here. So everyone, that's it for the breakdown of my new song, which is like a lo-fi house on a Peggy Gou style. It's called D.N.A. You can check this song out on every streaming platform. I'm just putting the link on the description here so you can check it out. Also, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button and give a like. Share this breakdown with your producer friends or even your musician friends, your songwriters, anyone that can learn a little bit here, like I'm here to that. Thank you for watching and thank you for sticking into your time until this. I'm putting here on the screen some videos that you should check out. So thank you. I'll be here next week.